These two guys are really hardcore. They even drove their boat onto the road just to catch more alligators. They're not poachers, they're well-known American swamp hunters. This is one of the most lucrative professions, allowing them to work just 1 month a year and earn millions. The industry's profitability has drawn many hunters. To control the alligator population in Louisiana, the government permits a 1-month hunting season annually. During this time, hunters with the right permits can legally kill alligators for profit. As the 8th day of the hunting season arrives, water levels continue to drop, forcing hunters to change their strategies and look towards areas that might soon become inaccessible. Before the sun rises, Troy is already preparing for the day's hunt and has enlisted the help of his friend Bruce. He hopes Bruce can help alleviate the pressure from the 900 tags he received last season by taking on 100 of them. Bruce readily agrees. As the sun comes up not far from Troy, Jacob is already searching for alligators in the pond and has figured out how to deal with the water level issue. They wager that the alligators in the shallow areas will eventually move to deeper waters to avoid the heat. Soon, they spot an alligator ahead. As they approach and examine it, they are puzzled. Only after pulling it out do they realize it's already dead. Jacob notices its tail is bitten off. They quickly understand there's a giant, aggressive alligator in the area, especially dangerous when hungry. These giant alligators can even attack smaller ones, biting off their legs and tails, and sometimes swallowing them whole. The presence of such an alligator could cause them significant losses because, locally, any alligator caught by hunters must use up a tag, even if only half of the alligator is left. Meanwhile, Troy and Pickle were navigating a shallow mudflat, creating a large wake of mud behind them. After finally getting out of the area, they soon spotted an alligator. Pickle quickly pulled the rope, and they immediately hauled the alligator out of the water. Although the alligator struggled continuously, Troy seized the opportunity and sent it straight to its maker. The two then happily pulled it onto the boat. Despite this promising start, the low water levels continued to cause problems, with the motor frequently hitting submerged stumps. Meanwhile, Willie and Little Willie headed to their usual spot known for big catches and came back with a full load. However, the lowered water levels this year made the route extremely difficult, straining the engine and risking its failure, which could end their season early. They managed to leave the area, but navigating back with a full boat would be even harder, and they might get stuck. Soon after, Little Willie spotted a relaxed alligator and quickly cast the treble hook. He pulled it to the side of the boat, and as soon as the alligator loosened its grip, Willie didn't hesitate to pull the trigger and then hauled it onto the boat. Seeing the 9-foot alligator made Little Willie even more worried about whether they could make it back. After tagging it, they continued their search for more alligators. Meanwhile, Joey and Zach decided to rely on an airboat. They headed to a mysterious spot that could only be reached by airboat. However, this year's low water levels had significantly lengthened the only passage, making entry much more difficult, which puzzled Zach. But Joey insisted on this location because it was passed down from his father. Joey then cut some willow branches to use as a buffer for the uphill climb, and after getting back on the boat, he accelerated. However, they got stuck halfway up. Seeing this, Zach got off the boat to help it out of the current predicament. Once free, Joey drove the boat through the forest. Soon, they were back in the river. Looking at the beautiful surroundings, it was clear that no one had disturbed this place for a long time. They immediately started searching for alligators. Meanwhile, Bruce was helping Troy fill out tags. Even though they were in one of the shallowest waters, it didn't affect his operation at all, thanks to his special mud boat, which allowed him to navigate in extremely low water levels. It could even cross over large trees that regular boats couldn't. Once inside, Bruce began running the lines. These lines were set by Troy's nephew who had walked here the previous day. It didn't take long before they found an alligator on the hook, which made Bruce very happy. However, the alligator had tangled the rope around a branch, frustrating Bruce. He had to find a saw in his toolbox, remarking that anything could happen in the swamp. After freeing the rope, Bruce started pulling the alligator, but it was so fierce that it dragged the boat forward. Despite its ferocity, Bruce managed to keep the alligator pinned to the side of the boat. Seeing such a fierce alligator, Bruce decided to reward it with a peanut, a bullet. As a lone ranger, Bruce relies heavily on his carbine rifle, which not only functions well under harsh conditions but also has powerful firepower, ensuring the alligator doesn't survive a single shot. After tagging the alligator, he set off on his journey again. Not far away, Troy and Pickle were still battling the shallows, trying to use up their remaining tags. It was tough going, and the engine was at risk of breaking down, which would mean Troy's expenses would exceed his earnings this year. Eventually, they left the area and found a trap they set the day before had caught an alligator. Pickle felt the gator go under the boat when he grabbed the rope, but he still managed to pull it to the surface. Although the alligator resisted fiercely, Pickle managed to bring it to the surface again and Troy shot it dead. While hauling this giant onto the boat was a joyous moment, the shallows continued to torment Troy relentlessly. Meanwhile, Don and Jacob were facing a different kind of enemy. They didn't have issues with low water levels, but a beast in their water area was constantly devouring their catch, having already taken care of 4 or 5 alligators. It was even gnawing on other trapped alligators. Suddenly, Don noticed bubbles rising nearby, and both men immediately suspected it was the alligator that had been feasting on their catch. Don readied his Patriot. Soon, Jacob managed to pull the alligator to the side of the boat, and a fierce struggle ensued. However, the alligator eventually broke free. Jacob was so furious that he started cursing. At that moment, Tang picked up the treble hook and cast it out. Tang had spotted the alligator again, but his first throw missed, making the alligator even more cautious. No matter how hard they searched, they couldn't find any trace of it. In the end, they had to give up, but that didn't mean they didn't want to take it down. Meanwhile, Joey and Zach, having successfully entered the area, began searching for alligators non-stop, knowing this might be their only day to access the spot, so they needed to make the most of it. Zach found himself surrounded by alligators, even right in front of him, leaving him momentarily unsure of what to do. Then Joey spotted a big one, and Zach immediately cast his hook. As he tried to reel it in, he faced tremendous resistance. Joey threw his treble hook and hit the target directly, but the alligator was unfazed and started dragging the boat. Seeing such a fierce alligator, Zach excitedly ran to grab his gun. Despite its immense strength, the alligator was quite simple-minded, keeping its head near the boat, waiting to be shot. Seeing this, Joey took a shot and hit it right on the mark. The two then struggled to haul the heavy alligator onto the boat. Clearly, this alligator was no lightweight, but they had no time to celebrate, as they only had one day to hunt here. Meanwhile, the Lone Ranger Bruce was still helping Troy fill tags. Bruce noticed an alligator caught in a trap ahead, but it seemed dead. Suddenly, it moved, apparently uncomfortable from being hooked. But no worries, Bruce would soon take care of it. Bruce had just pulled the rope when the alligator did a death roll, startling him. But even with its full skill set, the alligator was no match for Bruce's carbine. As he pulled the alligator onto the boat, Bruce started worrying about something. With each alligator they caught, the boat got heavier, making it harder to leave, especially with that fallen tree in the way. Not far from Bruce, Troy and Pickle had only caught 6 alligators so far, but they couldn't speed up because the shallow waters were slowing them down. Suddenly, Troy's engine stopped working, putting them in a bind. When they lifted the engine, they found a crab trap stuck in it. Troy quickly fetched some tools and spent nearly half an hour fixing it, which further slowed them down. Meanwhile, on the other side, Willie and his son were also having engine trouble. Their engine starts emitting a thin wisp of smoke. After checking, Willie identifies the problem and, after an hour of repairs, they are back on track. Just then, Willie spots a leisurely alligator. Little Willie quickly grabs the treble hook, throws it out, and carefully reels it back in. But the alligator surfaces and looks at him, making little Willie so frustrated that his ears turn red. He quickly throws the hook again and carefully reels it back in, this time successfully hitting the target. Willie immediately loads his gun. Little Willie pulled the gator to the side of the boat, and Willie shot it dead. After hauling the gator on board, they didn't celebrate, knowing each additional gator added significant weight, putting more strain on the engine. Meanwhile, Jacob and Don were still upset about losing a fierce gator earlier, worried it might scare off the smaller ones. This could mean they'd get nothing from this area. Then Don spotted a hooked gator in the distance, still alive. As he pulled it in, he realized it was a massive one. The gator burst out of the water with incredible strength, nearly dragging Don in several times. Luckily, Jacob, no rookie, shot the gator, preventing Don from falling in. Once on board, Don noticed bite marks on its tail, indicating a very large gator had attacked it. This discovery added pressure on them. Meanwhile, Joey and Zach decided to take a break. Joey pulled out a can of sausages, which turned out to be cat food, but he ate it anyway, being really hungry. After eating, they got back to work. On the other side, Bruce was having a successful day, but it made him even more anxious about getting back. He worried about being stuck for 3 days if he couldn't return. Then Bruce saw a very active gator, loaded his gun, and pulled it to the surface, angering the gator. It fiercely resisted, even trying to jump on the boat to bite Bruce's foot. This enraged Bruce, who shot it dead. The boat was now piled high with gators. The boat got heavier, and like Bruce, Willie and his son kept searching for gators. Suddenly, bubbles appeared ahead. Little Willie cast the treble hook, hoping to hit the target on the first try. He succeeded, and as they pulled it to the boat, the gators started thrashing. Willie seized the moment and shot it dead. They hauled it on board and decided to leave. Meanwhile, Pickle and Troy had been stuck in the shallows all day but had to finish tagging there. Pickle noticed something ahead, poked it, and found it was heavy. Troy didn't hesitate and shot the massive gator. They decided to take it to the buyer immediately. Meanwhile, Jacob and Don were still hunting the gator that had been eating their catch, determined to get it. They found a dead gator ahead. Don hooked it to tag it but accidentally hooked another gator. Pulling it out, they realized it was the one they'd been searching for. The gator was strong, diving back into the water, but Don's persistence paid off and he pulled it back up. The gator tried to jump on the boat, but Jacob's gun stopped it. Catching this gator was a huge victory for them. They knew the next few days wouldn't be as tough. They headed back. Bruce was also returning, but his boat got stuck on a tree. He used a rope to lift it over, successfully freeing it. He returned triumphantly. Willie and his son also headed home, worried if the engine could handle the load. Fortunately, they made it back to deep water. The Swamp King at the buyer's place waited for Bruce, who arrived with a boat full of gators. Unloading them, both were filled with joy. That's a wrap for this episode. Hit the thumbs up and stay tuned for more excitement next time. Look at this man in front of you, shining and glamorous, even winning a medal and giving a speech on stage. But he's actually in the hunting business. This is one of the most lucrative professions in the world, requiring only a month of work each year to earn millions. He's one of America's famous swamp hunters. This profitable industry attracts many hunters. Due to the overpopulation of alligators in Louisiana, the government opens a 1-month hunting season each year to maintain ecological balance. During this period, hunters can legally kill alligators for money as long as they have the tags. As the hunting season progresses, the alligator's habits change, forcing hunters to adapt their strategies. With a new day dawning, Ronnie still needs to fill 10 tags in this area. But after getting ready, Timmy is nowhere to be seen. This makes Ronnie very anxious because he has an important event tonight. Fortunately, Timmy doesn't take too long, and they set off. Ronnie is so excited that he keeps talking about tonight's event on the way. In high school and junior college, I was just a big 356'5" solid, but once I got to my senior college and if one funny, Andre, I probably would have made it. The end of tonight is one of the biggest nights of my fame. I got a boss telling me it's such an honor to be in a football hall of fame. They chatted and laughed all the way to the trap they set yesterday, but as they got closer, they found an alligator lying on the water hyacinth. Suddenly, the alligator charged at them, trying to get on the boat. Unfortunately, it didn't succeed, but it didn't give up and tried again, only to be restrained by Ronnie. Seeing this, the alligator turned to flee, giving Timmy a perfect shot to take it down. Although this alligator was smaller than the previous ones, Ronnie was very satisfied because their goal today was to fill all the tags quickly. Unlike them, Porkchop and Laren aimed to catch big ones. Despite a good start to the season, they had relaxed and only filled 67 out of 175 tags. Determined to take it seriously, they started running lines again, but an unpleasant surprise awaited them. Their big chicken legs no longer attracted alligators, forcing them to rebait due to nature's power. With the water level dropping again, they had to lower the bait. Seeing this, Laren no longer wanted to catch only big alligators, fearing a poor haul today, but Porkchop disagreed. Because large alligators can jump about 5 feet out of the water, they can easily reach the bait. Meanwhile, Troy and Pickle arrived at a place hunters call the graveyard. It's named so because of the underwater threats, including tree roots and large branches, and this year's low water level. They had to stay highly focused to avoid hitting stumps like this. Back on track, Pickle noticed the line on the trap ahead was tight. As they got closer, he grabbed the line and started pulling it back. But whatever was underwater was heavy, making it hard for Pickle to pull. After some effort, Pickle gave Troy an opportunity to shoot the alligator. They pulled it onto the boat, a 10-foot gator, proving Troy's choice was right. But Pickle wasn't happy with the trip, though it didn't matter since Troy was the team leader. Meanwhile, Ashley and Anna received a special request to deal with a giant alligator in a residential deepwater area, making the residents want these new neighbors gone. They had to rebait the lines. Soon, Anna and Ashley met the client and learned the alligator was brazen, swimming in broad daylight in front of an elderly woman. Eager to catch this rogue gator, they set numerous traps along the waterway. 23 kilometers away, Joey and Zach had only a few tags left, so they decided to catch big fish. Zach spotted a huge alligator. After Joey anchored the boat, Zach cast his line but missed. He cast again after reeling in, but still missed. Joey then suggested they swap weapons and see who catches an alligator first, with the loser buying dinner. Zach agreed, and after swapping, they continued their search. Soon, they spotted a leisurely alligator, and Joey cast his line. It looked weak, and he slowly reeled it in, missing again. Zach then cast a perfect hook, feeling strong resistance and realizing he had caught something. But when he pulled it out, it was just a branch. Joey started ordering food, while miles away, Porkchop and Laren still hadn't found a unified method to deal with the water level issue. They decided to use both methods and compare, but neither worked so far. They noticed a trap ahead had been bitten. Laren steered the boat closer, and Porkchop quickly pulled the line. The alligator died amidst their commotion. The line had only hooked its foot, and they pulled it onto the boat. Seeing their first catch of the day, Laren felt confident and insisted on lowering the bait, but Porkchop disagreed and convinced Laren otherwise. Meanwhile, Ronnie and Timmy were still running lines, but the low water level slowed them down. Ronnie feared he wouldn't make it to the ceremony on time, and the invisible stumps frustrated them. Timmy then noticed a lively catch on the line ahead. He commented while reeling it in, with Ronnie ready to take over. After handing it off, Timmy grabbed the gun. Ronnie lifted the alligator's head and Timmy shot it. They pulled the giant onto the boat but had no time to celebrate as they had to finish all the tags today by law. Meanwhile, Anna and Ashley were still tracking the rogue alligator and spotted one swimming leisurely ahead. But they didn't want to shoot near the houses, fearing it would scare people. They decided to check other traps. Anna pulled up the line and shot the alligator, making them happy. They thought it was the rogue and decided to show it to the client. Meanwhile, Troy and Pickle had only caught 2 alligators in the graveyard, still battling underwater stumps and branches. Troy began doubting his decision, while Zach and Joey were still trying to avoid cooking, with no success yet. Zach then spotted a slow-moving alligator ahead. Joey sped up and cast his line, successfully hooking the gator. As he pulled it to the boat, Zach threw a treble hook to assist. After pulling the gator out, Joey grabbed his gun. After killing the alligator, Joey again mentioned wanting a medium rare steak. This bet made them realize each other's importance, greatly enhancing their teamwork. And I'm looking forward to my steak dinner. Meanwhile, Anna and Ashley were heading to the client's house, having caught several alligators, hoping the biggest one was the rogue. But the client said it wasn't, and the rogue was even bigger than the 9-foot gator they caught. Learning this, they resumed their search and soon spotted another alligator near a trap, but it quickly submerged, so they checked the trap. When Anna pulled the line, she finds the hook empty, the chicken leg gone, and no alligator in sight. They realize this gator is no ordinary one and grow more concerned for the safety of their client and the locals. Meanwhile, Porkchop and Laren are still checking their lines. The chicken legs along the way make Laren doubt Porkchop's strategy again. Suddenly, they find a gator caught in a trap. Porkchop quickly pulls up the line and hauls the gator in. Seeing the nearly 10-foot gator makes Porkchop feel triumphant. But Laren remains skeptical, thinking they wasted too much time and bait for just one gator. Meanwhile, Ronnie and Timmy have only one trap left to check. Once they finish, Ronnie can head to the Hall of Fame ceremony. With just an hour left, they rush to the trap and find a very active gator. Timmy quickly hands the rope to Ronnie and grabs the shotgun. Ronnie pulls the gator out of the water, and seeing this last gator, Ronnie is thrilled. Even though it's a big catch, Ronnie is eager to finish up. He keeps lifting the gator's head, giving Timmy a clear shot. Timmy doesn't hesitate and takes it down, making this gator the perfect end to their hunting day.
We got the boat loaded. I'm gonna tell you what, I just hold gators. We got right. I can make it to this Hall of Fame induction.
Meanwhile, Troy and Pickle already have 6 gators on their boat and have figured out how to navigate the waters. They come across another gator caught in a trap. Troy loads his gun while Pickle pulls the gator out of the water. After sending the gator to meet its maker, Troy quickly tags it, and they head to the next trap, knowing time is running out. Porkchop and Laren have only a few traps left to check. Porkchop's traps have yielded just 1 gator, while Laren's have caught 5. Suddenly, something catches Porkchop's eye, making him excited again. But as they get closer, something feels off. Porkchop pulls up the rope, only to find the gator has escaped. Just as Porkchop feels disheartened, Laren spots the gator, reigniting Porkchop's hope. He quickly throws a treble hook. Laren grabs the gun, but it clicks empty when he pulls the trigger. Porkchop jumps in frustration. Luckily, Laren reloads quickly, takes the shot, and they haul the gator onto the boat, exhausted but ready to move on. Meanwhile, Anna and Ashley have caught many gators but not the rogue one. They're anxious, with only 1 line left. They pray the rogue gator is on it. As Anna pulls up the rope, it feels heavy, suggesting it might be their target. When she finally hauls it up, they're sure it's the rogue gator. Seeing the massive gator, they're overjoyed. They can't wait to bring it back and head straight to their client with the catch. Thank you. Meanwhile, Troy and Pickle have one last trap to check. On their way, a huge tree branch blocks their path. But this is no challenge for the Swamp King, Troy. He instructs Pickle to tie a rope to the branch, then reverses the boat, clearing the path in one go. No wonder he's the Swamp King. They soon reach the trap and find a gator caught. Pickle quickly hauls the gator up, and Troy grabs the net. With the gator on board, their boat is nearly full. Meanwhile, Zach and Joey have returned home, and Zach keeps his promise. As the sun sets, Ronnie arrives at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony just in time. That's a wrap for this episode. Give us a thumbs up and stay tuned for the next exciting adventure.